interlocutory appeals. They want to see a case finalized and presented in full to them. So he has the advantage here. Now, from the perspective of the Trump team, their view is, look, we think that you made an unholy mess of all this. I happen to agree with them on that point, that there are reversible errors here, and they want to start with the immunity question. Basically, Merchan said, there's really no problem here in terms of my use or the introduction of evidence in my courtroom. They have strong arguments against that, and they want the appellate court to hear it. But it looks today, Brett, that this hearing is going to occur as planned by Judge Merchan.
Yeah, and 10 days before the inauguration of the 47th president, which was made official today with the electoral count certification. That said, once this wraps up, you were in that courtroom. As you mentioned, you had some questions about the judge and his actions, and also how the case played out. The appeal process and what they could appeal is fairly strong?
Yeah, the upside, if there is an upside to being sentenced, is that you can finally appeal this case. And this case is outrageous. I mean, even the Democratic senator from New Jersey called it BS recently. It was this novel theory that none of us had really seen play out like this, where they zap back into life a misdemeanor and converted it into a pile of felonies. On top of that, the judge really made a series of reversible errors. All of that can now be reviewed. And even though we don't have a lot of faith left in the New York court system, there is the Supreme Court, but that will take time. But the president-elect will finally get an opportunity to do that. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not grounds here for sympathy.
Okay, so understand what he's saying here. He's saying that Merchan screwed up this case and that there's going to be an opportunity for Trump to appeal. But you can't appeal something that hasn't happened. See, Merchan has not concluded the case, so everyone's just been hanging around, waiting for something to happen. See if they could get him convicted, put it off, and now Merchan says, I'm going to sentence him on the 10th. So Trump decides to go into court, into the appellate court, and say, can you just get rid of this? And then you're going to see what happens there.
Judge Merchan created this conflict. He waited and then set this date 10 days before the inauguration. He wanted to guarantee that Trump didn't have any runway to take off any appeal. And I think that is rather obvious. But he very likely could get away with it because he does know that there is this preference among appellate judges to let the trial judges rule so they can look at the whole case.
All right. That last part is really important. The ideology on appellate courts is usually to wait till the judge actually makes the mistake. They don't want to jump in front of the judge and say, we're not going to allow you to make the mistake, which is what Trump was seeking. He's like, this guy's screwing up. Can we just get rid of this? And so he decided he didn't want to wait till Friday, and then he wanted to bring it in front of the appellate court right away and get it thrown out. And then this happened.
Going to get our legal eagles up on this because we are just getting word now that the judge in the New York versus Trump case has denied the Trump application for immediate pause of proceedings. You heard the president-elect discussing this earlier in that news conference, but they have said now the application to halt all proceedings, including the sentencing, has been denied. We obviously, John, will have to see where all of this goes next, but that's what we're learning right now.
You might be...
All right. So he tried to basically jump the horse, and let's go ahead and just get it thrown out. The appellate court, as Jonathan Turley said, they like to there's nothing to appeal. He hasn't rendered judgment. And so the appellate court, which Merchan pretty much knew was going to be the case, said, no, you got to wait until you're actually sentenced. Then once you're sentenced, then you can appeal to the Supreme Court. Now, there's nothing to wait for, nothing to do until Friday, the 10th, where Merchan is going to have the stage and have the platform to do whatever he wants to do. who knows what he's going to do. He's not going to put him in jail. Forget about that. That's not going to happen. But nonetheless, we're going to have a complete circus where he's going to be convicted, because as of right now, he's not convicted because he's going to be sentenced to something on Friday. And then the whole wheels of appeal can happen again, but it's going to take time. It's going to go way past January 20th, blah, 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 blah. And they're going to say, for the next couple weeks, Trump is the first president to be a convicted felon. Obviously, it doesn't matter. He got voted in a landslide. It's only going to make things worse for the Democrats. If they were smart, they would say, hey, we don't want to do this anymore. It's making people pissed off at us. People are realizing we're playing stupid games and we're going to end up getting more stupid prizes. But they don't care. I don't know if the devil has put scales on their eyes, but they're hell-bent on being able to say over and over and over, convicted felon, convicted felon, convicted felon. Meanwhile, Trump's out here trying to buy Greenland. But the problem is, that big tent I've been telling you about is really starting to grow with people who are just disgusted with the Democrats. And you've got very prominent people who are basically on the fringe who are calling out the stupidity of the Democrats, like Fetterman.
Like it's really common sense. And I'd like to remind everybody that we have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of migrants here illegally that have convicted of crimes. And I don't know why, who wants to defend to allow them to remain in our nation? And now if you're here illegally and you're committing crimes and those things, I don't know why anybody thinks that it's controversial that they all need to go.
Do you think that this was one of, if not the biggest issue for this election?
Well, I think if we can't, there's 47 of us in the Senate, and if we can't pull up with 7 votes, if we can't get at least 7 out of 47, if we can't, then that's the reason why we lost. That's one of them. That's one of why we lost.
Charlemagne the God is calling these people out.
Donald Trump shows me what's politically possible. Trump shows me what presidents can do if they want to do it. Donald Trump shows me what can be said if you are willing to say it. It's not about what can't be done. It's about who has the political will to do it. I don't want to hear a peep from Democrats about nothing until they get the balls to say what's really on their mind in regards to this country and this world. Trump doesn't care if it sounds ridiculous. Trump doesn't care if it makes sense. It's no political correctness whatsoever. As I've been saying for years, the language of politics is dead, and Donald Trump killed it. Period.
Well, wow.
Democrats keep following these political norms and traditions, and it's confusing because you can't call a man a fascist and a dictator, but when he wins, throws all that rhetoric out the window. Unless, of course, it was just politics and you never believed it. I've told y'all this already. Yes, I've called Trump a fascist, not because of anything Democrats said, but because of the words I've heard come out of Trump's mouth. But it's almost like Democrats don't realize how they screw themselves for the future because the midterms are right around the corner. The only thing they can hope for is that Republicans implode and F things up so bad that the American people are just dying for a change, because there's nothing Democrats can say about Republicans that we should believe after they spent weeks calling Trump a fascist and calling Republicans fascists and telling us it would be the end of democracy, only to put a button on all of that.
Very influential people on the outside going, this is stupid. You're making me look stupid. Well, I featured this guy a number of times, and I want you to hear what Stephen A. Smith had to say about this Democrat debacle.
Surprised with what I have to say about this. This is the kind of stuff that just validates assertions about stuff being politicized. Maybe not specifically with Trump, but the suspicion definitely is there. What is the purpose of this? Is he going to jail? Is he going to jail? You gonna get a fine? We got to sit up there and go through all the pomp and circumstance when you know you're not going to do anything. He was certified today as the next president of the United States of America. Come January 21st, he will be sworn in as the 47th president of the United States of America. But you want to sentence him.
It's a joke. At this point, they are embarrassing themselves. You've got people all around the spectrum who are now going, this is what you got. This is what you expect me to support. Barry, why are you showing us this Stephen A. Smith clown? Because this is where opportunity is exposed to you. This is where you begin to see there's going to be a lot of vulnerable people who are like, oh man, these people are clowns. The Democrat Party is bonkers. Stephen A. Smith is talking to tens of millions of people. He's letting them know these Democrats are clowns. You should be doing the same. Use his own words. Use his videos.
Juan Merchan. Who is he? The state Supreme Court Justice in New York. You want to sentence him next Friday. And by the way, what is the sentencing about? Because see, we got to be real about it. We just got to be real about it. 34 felony counts. It sounds very, very damaging. It's a hush money case. Essentially, the case against Donald Trump is that he is alleged to have engaged in relations with a former porn star, and he made efforts involving finances to keep her mouth shut. That's what all of this is about. You know what some people said to me when they were talking about this? They said, could you please tell me what's the difference between this and somebody signing an NDA? I don't know the answer to these questions. I'm just telling you what people's thought process is.
It doesn't make any sense to anybody anymore. I don't think enough of you guys realize just how much power you have right now, just how strong you are in terms of just blowing the doors off these people. And now you got Zuckerberg saying, well, hey, MAGA people can go ahead and talk. Hey, I'm on X. Hey, you guys can talk. Everybody go get some. Let everybody know how stupid this is. This man is going to be sentenced on Friday. I believe Friday's the 10th. But we're not going to put him in jail. We're just going to sentence him so we can call him a convicted felon, as if that frickin' matters. To nobody. Nobody cares. Only you nuts care. We already know what was going on. And now what you're doing is you're exposing yourself to the fringe. You're exposing yourself to the people who you need to win in 2026. Because now these people are looking side-eye at you and going, this is stupid. Especially people like Stephen A., which is why I included it, who are in the sports world. Do you have any idea how many athletes and entertainers have had to sign NDA agreements with people because of indiscretions that they may have had? They all know. They all know this is BS. These people have embarrassed themselves to no end. And so I'm just bracing you. I think the 10th, the 10th is Friday. You're going to hear it. Convicted felon, convicted felon, convicted felon. It's going to be everywhere, and it doesn't matter. They're embarrassing themselves, and you have a golden opportunity to get out there and say something about it. Don't hold back.